Thank you. So first, let's talk about the intersection between science, from science to policy, which is not an easy one. It's been a well-established fact that scientists and policymakers do not speak the same language. They have problems to communicate and understand each other. This represents a challenge when developing policies, particularly those related to the environment. Aware of these facts, a number of initiatives, platforms, and projects has been raised in order to facilitate science policy interface. The Eclipse project is one of those initiatives. It aims to facilitate linkages between science, policy, and society from an end user's perspective. Next one, please. So this is slides that you might have seen before in the presentations from the experts. I have taken these slides basically to show that over the years there has been a tendency for evidence-based policy, meaning that there should be a high level of agreement and robust evidence among scientific community before policy is developed. During these last days, the precautionary principle was also a theme that was mentioned a couple of times, and I took the liberty to modify the graph that we have seen a couple of times from the experts to explain more or less where the precautionary principle takes care of where it serves. And for those that don't know, the precautionary principle says that where there are threats of serious or irreversible damage, lack of full scientific certainty shall not be used as a reason for postponing cost-effective measures to prevent environmental degradation. The challenge, of course, when trying to implement this concept to a widely spread and use wireless technologies. Next one, please. So now I'm going to present the policy recommendations from the different sessions in a transversal way. So basically, I'm going to show what were the topics that kept repeating across the different sessions. Next one, please. So first, I'm going to give you an overview of the top policy recommendation for the session on plants. And we can see that cooperation, standards, and platforms, together with the precautionary principle, were represented pretty much the bulk of the top recommendation for plants. Next one, please. So for vertebrates, again, we have cooperation in some sort of platform as well. Funding and the need for an interdisciplinary approach. These are the three main recommendations coming out from theirs. There were also a number of other recommendations, but they got fewer votes. So these three recommendations that I mentioned account for 51% of the votes from the session on vertebrates. And if I could have the next one, please. And last, we have the recommendations for invertebrates, which also relate to funding, platforms, and standards, the creation of standards. These being 50%, getting 50% of the votes, with the rest of the recommendations not having more than 11% on their own. So as we can see, these recommendations are all very related, all despite having been in different sessions, working in very different taxonomic groups. They pretty much relate to the need for an integrated approach, the need for a platform where there can be exchange and not only of knowledge, but also data that can be shared. And the standards, the need for standards is a common returning theme. And to have all these presented in a visual way, I have made the next slide, which presents a word cloud of different themes that were recurring in the policy discussions, but were not necessarily always in the top 3 or top 4 of the selected according to the ranking. However, this shows us the importance of having a broad approach, the importance of, for example, considering ecosystem services or citizen science, applying the precautionary principle, synergies, EMR, free areas, and so on. So these are pretty much the policy recommendations transversally. I'll go back now to Estelle. Thank you.